I don't want to just have one or two opportunities to choose from.
Yeah.
When you're growing a company, you want to have 50 opportunities to choose from.
Yeah.
Well, the only way you're going to have 50 opportunities is you got to go look for 50 opportunities.
Yeah.
I'd rather do it 3 times the wrong way to figure out how to do it.
Yes.
Sherry's opposite. She'd rather use her brain to try to figure out the right way to do it one time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So that's why we make a very
Kind
good
of balance.
team,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I'm very similar to you in that I'm an intuitive leader. I'm going to follow 7 steps, but I don't know that I'm following 7 steps.
Right.
This is the Disruptive Hope Podcast. Hope sees, hope engages, hope belongs, hope builds. Hope disrupts the narrative of despair, and in the tension of holding both sorrow and joy, we invite hope to redefine the lens through which we see and interact with the world. Embrace the challenge and become an agent of hope in unlikely places. Welcome to the Disruptive Hope Podcast.
Welcome to Legacy Shift. This is a podcast where we talk about the pitfalls and the joys of working with family in organizations that last. I'm your host, Dwayne Wehunt, co-founder of SOS International.
Well, welcome back to another edition of Legacy Shift. I'm especially excited about this conversation today. We have Mike and Sherry Daniels with us, and they're longtime friends and longtime partners of SOS, and they're just tremendously gifted people. And as a family, we love them. As Leslie and I, as a couple, we love them. And as a ministry, we love them. So I'm excited for you to get to hear their heart today. So welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about, I want us to get today to a point where this is all about legacy. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about your beginnings. So when you started your business, mm-hmm. I mean, my observation is that you two are an incredible team, like the two of you together.
A lot of work.
I would say that God knew what he was doing when he put you two together, for sure. But can you talk about just a little bit about working together, balancing each other's strengths in the early days of your original business?
You want to start?
Let's see. Mike and I have been together for a long time. I think we started learning to work together as teenagers. We met in high school and really were a team from that point on, and just managing. I was more academic. Mike was more of a worker. Just helping each other balance out those different responsibilities in life. And then we got married right out of college. And I started a career in public accounting. And Mike, you can tell them your story of college.
Yeah, I made it about one semester, I think, didn't I?
I think you made it 2 years.
Okay.
Let's give more credit than
Yeah.
that. You did 2 years.
2 years, one semester. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, I was, college didn't quite work out for me. So, but we started out early, obviously, and I got into the industrial space, into automotive repair, and started, working on cars in high school. Eventually worked on cars in college, and Sherry was very, very bright. I think she got through college in about 3 years with a degree, and of course she had every accounting firm in the nation wanting her. So she picked Houston, so we ended up going. And of course, you can work on cars anywhere. So we went to Houston. I guess that was in 91?
93.
93. We got married in 99.
We did.
Okay. So yeah, from there, I was working on cars, eventually worked my way up into sales, got into management, got into regional management. So, I was running a lot of locations in repair centers in the Houston market, and Sherry was working with an accounting firm. She got recruited away from that firm with one of her clients, and about that time I had decided I remember one day I was going over some financials with my boss, and I could probably, I was looking at the money that particular location was making, and I could probably count on one hand how many times I had help from upper management for the whole year. And it just dawned on me that, hey, I think I can do this on my own. And so at that time, I started looking around for shops to run on my own. And that's a whole different story. I'll let Sherry kind of tell her side of how that happened.
That's an interesting realization, because a lot of people, when they go through the same experience you did, they feel sorry for themselves, like, oh, I can't get any help. What do you expect to happen here? Yeah. But you realized, oh, well, I'm doing this anyways.
Yeah.
I could just run my own thing.
Yeah.
Yes. And how he broke it to his wife was just called her at work and said, we need to have lunch today. And he brought me some financials that did not look very good and explained to me about opportunity. And I always love that about Mike, because he looks at situations with such a unique perspective on what the opportunity is in that. And I do think that that's a gift that you have. I've watched him over and over and over do that as we've worked together throughout all the years. And then my job is I get to look at it and help figure out how we do that, right, and how to put all the detailed pieces in place. So this was really the first time that happened in a work environment. I don't think we had talked much about you doing something on your own. It was truly a realization. Mike acts really fast when he sees opportunity. And so it took me a minute to think, wow, at the time we had 2 very young children, and I had worked out a great deal with the organization I was working in, where I felt like I would have good balance between parenting and work. And so it was a big shakeup. But he has an infectious, kind of an infectious energy when it comes to opportunities, and it's not hard to get swept up in it sometimes. And I knew you could do it, so off we went.
Yeah, and it's one of those deals, when the main reason I went into it is to get my time back. We had 2 kids at the time. We were down in Houston. When we first started out together, we were both working daylight to dark. Literally, walk uphill in the snow, 2-mile type situation. It was a reality because we were both working.
Not in Houston.
No.
Yeah. But we were both working, 60, 70 plus hours a week.
Yeah.
Just giving it everything we had.
Yeah.
And then the kids came along. And so we had to make a decision. And what she's not telling you is she tried several times to quit, and her company she was working for just refused to let her quit. So they would always come up with these deals to where she could start out, just work, 1 week a month. And then it was 2 days a month. And then, 1 day a month. And, of course, they realized that, when Sherry does something, she's a perfectionist. And, there's no doing anything halfway with Sherry. You're going to do it right or you're not going to do it. And so so we had to make a decision. One of us was going to have to, continue the career, and one of us was going to have to take care of the kids. So, Sherry decided decided for her to stay home. Well, I realized real quick that, I wasn't seeing them. There's, my oldest son is 29, and literally the first 5 years of his life, I never saw him. And it's interesting because I've got a different relationship with him than the other 2. By the time my youngest came along, I was working from home almost all the time. So I've got it's interesting, the bonding time at those first, several years of life. So anyway, the main reason of going into doing something on my own was not necessarily financial gain. Yeah. It was literally to get my time back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so you both come from very, very wealthy families. And so, your family's like some of the richest families in Louisiana, right? And
I was about to say, this is the wrong. You got the wrong people here.
Read that again.
So,
No.
You go to buy a business,
Yeah.
Like you don't have family that you can get money from.
No.
You know, it's a whole new venture. You've never been a business owner.
No.
Like, what were some of those financial challenges that you guys faced at the
Well,
beginning of this?
What Sherry doesn't tell you is that when I did take her to lunch and say, hey, I think I'm interested in going into the business, and when she talks about those financials, she didn't tell you, first of all, we were in Houston. The 2 locations that we were looking to purchase were in Austin, Texas. And she also didn't tell you that the financials that I showed her, the locations were losing about $50,000 a month.
Wow.
Yes.
So,
And speaking to our background, my dad was very entrepreneurial as well, and he didn't have a good experience his first time out in the world of owning a business, and made some mistakes, and it didn't end as well. He eventually got to a better place and did get better at that, but the only experience we had with that had not even been a good experience.
Yeah.
And then Mike is showing me these financials, and I'm thinking, wow, this is a big undertaking.
yeah. So, but it was, it was just an opportunity that I saw. I mean, that's what I did. I knew the space so well, from working on the cars to selling the service to, I was running 16 stores in the Houston market for another company. So that I had the opportunity to go do some due diligence in the Austin market and realized real quick that there was a huge opportunity there. And so I don't know how it happened, but I was able to sell Sherry on it. And, she's always been supportive. So we pulled the trigger. We sold everything we had. And keep in mind, we were, when you work, 70 hours a week, you're gonna, between the 2 of us, when we first started, we were pretty comfortable. We were young, but we were comfortable because we worked all the time. We didn't have anywhere to spend the money. So
We had saved.
We had saved the money. Everything we saved, we put into we rolled the dice. We saved everything we saved. We rolled into the business, and it's one of those things. When people look at, especially young entrepreneurs, don't ever discount your effort.
Right.
Effort will outweigh knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
If you just put the effort in, it will. We didn't know what we didn't know, right? So we just had to put our heads down and make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of, I think, young entrepreneurs go wrong, is that there's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And you just got to put your head down and get through those first 2 or 3 years, and if you give it everything you got, you'll come out on top. You just will.
So how long did it take to turn that negative $50,000 a month into some positive cash flow?
It literally took 30 days.
30 days.
So one of the things that Mike's not saying
That's
about
probably a
himself
good
either
thing.
is he was excellent in his industry. He was really good, and I think that the relationships he had built made a big difference, because the company that he was working for, when he told them that he was interested in leaving, would rather see him stay a part of something they were a part of. And so they're the ones that brought these locations, and knew Mike could turn that around. And Mike was able to bring some key relationships in the business in, which made a huge impact from day one.
Yeah.
And so it ended up, again, just that effort, like Mike's talking about, that he had put in, really paid off in those relationships and the support that we got to go to Austin and to start this. And I always tell this interesting story because I think that I think it was a blessing. It didn't feel like it at the time. So when we moved to Austin and I was able to pretty much work from home, Mike said to me, let's have one more child. So we had a boy, we had a girl. It's like, let's have a third. I was like, okay, interesting timing with everything, but we trusted, and so glad we did. We adore him and all of our children, but I'm so glad we had Cole. But we decided to have another child, so I was working at home, and I can remember not long after Cole was born, so we had been in business, 9-10 months at the time on our own, because when we first moved over, Mike was, there was a transition period with the company that he was working for. And so I was in the mall, walking Cole in a stroller, and I get a phone call from Mike, and we've been named in a class action lawsuit.
Oh.
And I was like, well, what does that mean, and what is that all about? And it was a crazy story of a customer at one of our stores answered an advertisement from an attorney. Have you ever been charged shop supply? Something that was really common in our industry, not something we came up with or did. But I think walking through that, what God taught us is that, like Mike said, you don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And you're just going to have to trust me. And we had no idea what to do at the time. We didn't know how to even get an attorney or begin, but our insurance company stepped in. The company that we acquired the stores from put some resources behind it, came out with a good outcome. But I think it helped me at least to learn early on that no matter what efforts, Mike said I'm a perfectionist, no matter how much we study or how much we put in and try to work this out, there's just an aspect of it you're going to walk through and trust.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think just observation, watching you guys, you guys are brilliant, both of you, especially operationally,
Mm-hmm.
of going into a place, like figuring out everything and looking for opportunity to maximize what's happening in that. And then looking, you've probably already done it 4 or 5 times down the road by the time somebody identifies it, but where can we take this same thing and plug it here and plug it here and plug it here and plug
Right.
it here? And, by the time I met you, I don't know, you probably had 20 auto stores, and you lived in Argyle, Texas, and, you didn't live in Austin anymore. And, just talk a little bit about that process of multiplication.
Well, we were in a situation down in Austin. We love the area, and but we realized real quick we had the 2 locations there, and I wanted to open up more stores, and so we were so undercapitalized, and Austin is pretty tough, pretty liberal area, that particular space, automotive repair, it was pretty difficult to open in Austin, Texas. And because we were so undercapitalized, we didn't have the money to go and buy a raw piece of land and build a shop.
Yeah.
So, and that's where Sherry was talking about those connections. In my working for the previous company, one of the things that I had worked myself into is I was helping open stores and develop the stores. So I knew a lot of the landlords in the Dallas market, in the Atlanta market, in the Houston market. And so what happened is about 03, 04, our industry kind of went through a tough time. I don't know if y'all remember Cash for Clunkers. You probably do. I know your kids won't. And that's when the dealerships came up with 0% interest. So the dealerships were coming up. So what happened over a course of 3 or 4 years, there was a lot of brand new cars put on the street.
Yeah. Not good for auto repair.
Not good for automotive repair. So a lot of our competition was going out of business, and so I had known these landlords, right? And so I started getting phone calls, and so I got a phone call from a landlord in Dallas. He had 2 or 3 locations, and he wanted to know if I had interest in an open shops in Dallas, Texas. So needless to say, you can't pass on an opportunity, right? So we started.
I mean, you can.
You can. And, to Sherry's credit, and, so we pulled the trigger on them, and I was driving back and forth from Dallas to Austin, and I came home one day, and, Sherry being who she is, she said, we need to move to Dallas. Yeah. Now, here again, she was, just like in Houston, she had a perfect life, Same in Austin, she had a perfect life. I mean, she had girlfriends, she had a good church. I mean, everything was good. And I just couldn't. I was a little scared and didn't have the guts to tell her that we needed to move to Dallas. But she came to me and said we need to move to Dallas.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was interesting. I get emotional talking about it. She followed my dream. I did have a dream for us,
Yes.
but
But I was always grateful for that, Mike. Like, I was grateful that God gave Mike a big vision and that he gave us each other to help do that together.
yes, and I say it was my dream. It was my dream, but there's this book out there called Traction, and I'd strongly recommend people to read it. And we had probably been in business for probably 15 years before we read it.
Yes.
And so we started a development program in our one of our businesses, and it was so interesting to me that we lived that book, not knowing. There's an integrator, and there's a visionary,
Yeah.
right? And so both of them are just important. And so I always had played that visionary guy, and Sherry had always played that integrator. And so that's exactly how we ran our company, I'm always the glass half full. Sherry's always the glass half empty, right? So that's kind of, so we've made it, we've made a really good team, and so, but, there's always going to be opportunities out there.
Yeah.
There's always going to be opportunities out there. But you've got to have the right team around you
Yeah.
to do the due diligence, to do the research, to tell you what you don't want to know. As a visionary, glass is always half empty, right? But you've got to have somebody next to you that can look at all the pitfalls. And that's what Sherry's been for us.
Yeah.
She's...
Yeah.
We're not perfect.
No.
Some of our investments we've made, we're not 100%, but we've got a lot higher percentage because of Sherry. Let me put it that way.
Well, like I said, it's a balance because Mike has that vision and finds those
Yes.
opportunities. And I do think you have to, again, going back to that trust, we definitely have had failures. We've lost a lot of money. We've
yeah.
invested, made bad investments, but you just have to have the courage to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So let's kind of wrap a bow on that first,
Yep.
effort together.
Yes.
You bundled, I don't know how many, 28? How many?
We had in that
With the
process with the greenfields and everything, we opened up probably 25 total locations.
Okay.
But what we learned, any entrepreneur's mindset, and this is what we're trying to, teach our kids, it's kind of that Robert Kiyosaki concept that other people's time, other people's money. And so with the management side of the business, we kind of understood how to manage other people's time. And then we started looking at, we needed to learn how to manage other people's money, or how to work on other people's money. So we started. We were cash poor, and what I mean by that is we had opened up. We were in our 11th or 12th location, and what I mean by cash poor is that we didn't have any debt. So what would happen is we would save up money, and we'd buy another location.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any cash. We'd save up money, we'd buy another location.
Yeah. Got
And
it.
we got to about 11 or 12 stores, and it dawned on me, and Sherry came to me and said, this is crazy. We've got all this overhead. We got 11 or 12 locations with a ton of overhead,
Liability.
and we don't really have any cash to support that overhead. So if there was a downturn in the market or something,
Right.
we'd be in trouble. So I started thinking about that, and so we started putting some cash reserves. And I mean, you know, there'll be a lot of business people that tell you need to have 3 months of overhead in the bank.
Right.
You really need to have 6+ months of overhead in the bank.
Right.
You know? So we started saying,
And
hey.
I'm going to tell people how you did it. It was so simple. Like, I overcomplicated the whole process of how we were going to save money. Mike came to me and my assistant, and he said, once a week, you're going to write a check to this account. You're going to put money in this account, this much money. He just came up with a random number and decided that that was what we were going to do every week. And we started doing it. And it was really as simple as that. You look up and you have the money, because all the formulas I was writing and the processes I was coming up with, you know, it was just didn't need to be that hard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You always pay yourself first. Everybody else gets paid second.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you got to understand it's God's money to start with.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when you start looking at, you know, when you really understand that perspective, and that's just the way we were raised, you understand the priorities and how the money needs to be distributed.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of what we've done. But getting into that, that's what pulled me into real estate. It's like, wait a second, other people's money. So then I got to thinking about, you know, we were young at the time. We didn't have a tremendous amount of net worth, so we were able to actually get SBA funding. So then I started saying, wait, I want this shop. I can't, Sherry won't let me buy it.
I love that you say
Okay.
that. Like,
So-
I just won't let you do this.
So I went to the bank and I said, hey, I need to buy this shop. But well, I realized that I could buy the shop with the real estate. That if I would buy the real estate, I could get the shop as part of the real estate deal. So then we started buying real estate. We started leveraging money with SBA money, and then we started we opened up our own finance company to where we started actually buying our own real estate, and then we started developing real estate. And so the actual real estate side of our business grew to the point to where it was more profitable than the actual operating side of the business. So, but here again, it's that's how that. So when you're talking about putting a bow on it, it's literally just constantly don't give up. You are just constantly looking at it. I tell people all the time, Wayne, and whether it's just me, a true entrepreneur doesn't have a job. I get to wake up every day and play business, and that's the way I've always looked at it. I just enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
So we make, when we talk about our kids, they've seen that our lives, we don't have work-life balance. I'm not a big fan in work-life balance.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that concept. To me, everything you do is work-life balance.
Yeah.
Right. So, we live by a principle of priorities of your life, and we think it's God, family, health, work. That's what we tell our kids. And anytime we as a family, or anytime I have one of my kids struggling, we always go back to, how much time are you giving God? How much time are you giving family? How much time are you giving health, work? So that's the priorities of life. And 90% of the time, the priorities are wrong.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
fundamentally, that's what we always try to go back to.
Yeah.
And as we're wrapping that up, I want to say one more thing about the relationships that I think Mike was really good at and probably paid more dividends to us in the future, is just don't burn bridges. Like, there were times where, again, I would look at something, and whether it be, a business deal, and I felt like, we were maybe being wronged or we weren't in the right position. Mike always kept that relationship open and made that a positive situation, and like I said, looked at the glass half full in the situation, whereas I wanted to say, no, that's wrong, and kind of stand on the righteousness of it. And I've been amazed over and over again how just maintaining those relationships and being authentic in it. It's not like he went
Sure.
and he was fake about it. I mean, we expressed what the concerns were and everything, but just really working to maintain those relationships came back and paid huge dividends in our business career and future. It just led to other things. So I think that was a big part of our story too.
Yeah, don't get bitter.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
worth it.
You're going to be wronged. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just part of it.
Mhm.
And business is business. There's no utopia in business.
Yeah.
There's no utopia in anything.
Yeah. True.
So just don't be bitter.
True.
It's just part of it. It's like, Sherry talked about investments and assets and stuff that we've lost money on.
Mhm.
It's just part of the ride.
Yeah.
There's no utopia. You're going to have good investments. You're going to have bad investments. You're going to make good decisions. You're going to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Just don't give up.
Yeah.
It's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
Just keep pushing.
Yeah. Amen to that for sure.
Keep pushing.
So you sold that business,
Sold the automotive.
gone,
On.
and I was pretty close to y'all during that season.
Yes.
And somebody gave you some advice. Don't do anything for a year. I don't know who gave you that advice, but somebody did.
Yeah.
And I remember watching Mike and thinking, okay, how's that gonna
Yeah,
work?
that's gonna work.
I mean, a lot of times when you have a family business, that has that kind of, I'll call it a windfall, but it's hard work and earned, and then you had a cash event in it. A lot of times that couple is older.
Mhm.
You guys are young.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy about your story. One of the things that's crazy
Yeah.
about your story is you're young.
Yes.
And so you didn't do anything for a year, which was hard.
Not.
And then Mike started buying restaurants.
Dwayne, it's the one industry everyone always told us was harder than automotive repair. So of course he's going to look at restaurants.
I
Yeah,
don't like to be told I can't do something.
yeah, and
No.
I know your oldest son worked with you in the former business, and I always joke you sold him, like he went with the business, but at some point he came
Yes.
back, and
He did.
now you've made a decision to transition, and all your kids, is that right?
all
your
three.
kids
Mhm.
are working with you now,
Yes.
like in the business.
Yep.
And there's some common misconceptions out there about working with your kids. One of them is that you give them all executive level titles and you pay them a big salary.
Mm.
And doesn't matter what their qualifications are. That's what you do.
Mhm.
And I know that you guys hold a high standard for financial accountability, but also work ethic.
Yeah.
So, can I hear some of your methodology and challenges around that concept?
I'll let you take this.
So our oldest, when he started working with us, as you mentioned in automotive, he was in high school, and he started working
Wow.
literally in the oil change pit. That was his first job, was learning the business. When he did that in the summers, picked up on more responsibilities around the shop. I think that Hayden did a good job of watching Mike. Mike always led with a real servant heart, and Hayden, I think, would tell you one of the things that he learned quickly is just be willing to do anything in the shop and build those relationships with the employees. He didn't want his last name to carry any kind of weight. He was willing to clean the toilet, mop the floor, do those things to earn that respect from the people that he worked with, because he knew how hard they worked and what they did. And so he did that through high school, went to college, got a degree, came back, and started recruiting for us. Because Mike, you can tell the story of why you started Hayden in recruiting.
And first of all, we were business to consumer, so we were in retail. I call it small box retail. And in any type of retail, you're only as good as your people.
Yeah.
And so he who recruits talent acquisition, that handles the talent acquisition, runs the company. So we started out, Hayden, his first job is I wanted him to learn how to recruit, hire, and fire people. And so that's why we started him in recruiting.
Yes, that was not his degree or what he had
No.
studied.
Yeah.
And I think at first, he was trusting and saying, okay, now I'm going to learn this. But he continued doing that after we sold the company, continued doing that to the company we sold until COVID happened. And then he leaned back on that high school experience, went back into a shop and ran a shop, which was really great experience. And I think it was good advice early on when Mike and I started running the business. Someone told us, pay yourself for what you do. And so we did that early on, and we kept it very separate, the business and the personal. So if we were doing a job for the company, we had a comp plan, we had a bonus plan. And so that, I think, was the expectation when the kids came to work for us, is that they would start at an entry-level position and they would be, paid the market rate and have a fair comp plan. And so Hayden grew up more in the business. Our other two children didn't necessarily anticipate that they would be part of the business. Our daughter has a master's degree in education, and she taught for a year in high school right after COVID at a Title I school. So she had a very fulfilling year, but it was a hard year. And at the time, she recognized that, Hayden was leaning heavy on operations and learning about the retail side. And she saw all the things that were falling on my plate, and she saw an opportunity to come in and help with that. And she's been a godsend to come in and have somebody help me, just be able to navigate all the different administrative things that we do. And so I think their expectation in coming in, like you said, was not that they would come in with executive titles and, receive these big salaries, but that they would, come in at an entry level and be part of the team. I think they've always had a healthy respect for the employees that work with us and see how hard that they work, and they have a tremendous amount of respect for them. Sometimes to the point we, will encourage them to take more of a leadership position, and they feel like, they can't, because they really want to respect that position. But I think that's probably the way they saw that, and kind of been our philosophy. They really take ownership in the responsibilities that they have, but I don't think that makes them feel entitled to something they're not working for.
Yeah. One thing I've always known about the both of you is you make decisions really well, really quick. And sometimes when you're living things, it can seem like a process takes a long time,
Right.
but you don't ever seem to struggle with the decision-making part of it, from my observation. And now you brought your children into this thing, and you guys have made all the decisions, all of them, especially financial,
Yes.
right? And now you're trying to bring another generation to make this thing a legacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
How difficult is that process for the two of you? Because it honestly slows things down.
Yes.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
very, very
speak
difficult.
to that.
Yeah, it's very difficult. You think you've got all this experience, right?
Yeah.
And you want to be in a situation where you can speed their learning curve up.
Yeah.
Right? And unfortunately, and this is just in training and developing people my whole life, it doesn't quite work that way.
No.
And so, the only way I can describe it is it's like if you were to take, probably Dwayne, and even in your business, you've done it for 30 plus years. So you've got this reputation. You can see a situation, you know exactly where to go with it, exactly how to do it. You know
Yeah.
the end product, and me and Sherry are the same way, right?
Yeah.
Well, we've got 30 years of repetition. It's like taking a 500-piece puzzle apart and putting it together 3 or 4 times a month for 35 years.
Yeah.
Right? Well, and I know you can pick up a piece and know exactly where on the board where it goes.
Yeah.
Well, your kids don't,
Yeah.
and you can't teach that.
Yeah.
The only way you can teach that is through repetition.
Yeah.
And so, it's just one of those deals. It's like you teach a 5-year-old, don't put your finger in the flame. They're going to put the finger in the flame. Sometimes they just have to learn on their own.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
so that's probably the hardest, frustrating part. Is
Yeah.
that, especially being their parents.
Yeah.
You already have this kind of, you know, you're my boss, but you're really not my boss. You know,
Yeah.
and
That
so
parent role and
yeah, so it's tough. It's
And
tough.
I think what Dwayne said is important too about the patience. I think that was the hardest thing for you to learn because, like Mike said, you feel like, oh, we can fast track this thing now
Yeah,
because we have
exactly.
all this experience.
Exactly.
And even though, like I said, Hayden worked since he was in high school with us, you know, we were always flowing between working and the kids picked up on a lot of that.
Yeah.
They still have to have their journey and they have to have their
Yeah.
experience and they're gifted differently than we are. They have
Yeah.
aspects of things we can see, you know, where it's like, oh, they're kind of like us in this way or that way, but it's
Yeah.
all blended with the thing that makes them unique and gifted. And I think, to your credit, you have really showed a lot of discipline and learning to be more patient because that is, I think, the biggest difference. The speed
Yeah.
we can move at is
Yeah.
not the same if we really want to
Yeah,
invest in the
and
next
it takes
generation.
a long time anyways, and
Yeah.
now we're slowing down.
Yes, exactly, and that's
Yeah.
and to your point, that's not even just with your kids. That's with your any
Yeah,
next
it
generation
is,
leaders.
for
You
sure.
know,
Yeah.
you're giving them, you're looking, you're trying to let them develop.
I'm fashioned like Mike,
Mm-hmm.
and like I want to be 20 years down the road today.
Today.
Like I can see what that's gonna be like
Yes.
when we get there.
Yes.
And I just want to get there,
Yes.
you know. But and then now to have to slow that process down.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, we're doing an expansion on Casa Esperanza in Costa Rica, and we've done a lot of building outside the country. We
Yes.
built a lot of buildings,
Yes.
but it's a different animal. Like you can get taken advantage of
Yeah.
fast.
Yes.
Like fast. You have to stay involved. You have to create systems in the process
Yeah.
so that any changes have to be approved by you. And if it's not approved by you, I'm not paying for it.
Right.
Like you have to
Yeah.
create this whole thing, right? And so we're going through the process, and I just can do it.
Yeah.
Like I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Christy, called me aside the other day and said, "Hey, like I don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
and I need to know what you're doing."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've had to slow down
Yeah.
Yes.
and walk her through
Yeah.
how we're doing it. And she doesn't do things like I do.
Right.
She's gifted totally different than I am. She's gifted like you are, Sherry,
Mm-hmm.
not like me.
Yes.
And so that even makes it more challenging. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't think the same. So do your children like make decisions the same way you do?
You know, being, I don't know, you call it first, I guess they're the second generation or
Yeah, for sure.
whatever. We're the first. So the sense of urgency that I have in business is always been extremely high.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah.
I think most entrepreneurs, most of the successful ones, why are you different? Why are you different? Well, it's the speed that they operate off of.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you said earlier about the decision making. The
Yeah.
decisions are made very fast. One of the reasons that we do so well is that I'm action oriented. I'd rather do it 3 times the wrong way to figure out how to do it.
Yes.
Sherry's opposite. She'd rather use her brain to try to figure out the right way to do it one time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So that's why we make a very
Kind
good
of balance.
team, right?
Yeah.
And so because we've worked in that environment our whole lives, we've made a pretty decent team. So now with these kids, young adults, they
Yeah,
have
they're
different
adults.
personalities, right?
Yes.
They're different.
They're
Where
different
I may
generations.
be, and of course, whatever score, or I guess we use DISC, whatever personality test you want to give them. Everybody's different, and so it's just trying to put that team together and trying to identify, and they're young, but trying to identify what role they're gonna take in the next, as we continue to turn over the responsibility to them.
Yeah.
And there may be one or two personality traits that or things that they just, between the three of them, just don't have. And if we identify that, or they identify that, they're going to have to go hire it.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
just going to have to be successful. You're going to have to hire it.
For sure.
You know, business is like gravity. You know, there's really only one way to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
it's you either you know, and to be successful and maintain it and have stability, you know, it's going to have to be run a certain way to
Yeah.
be successful.
Yeah.
And so you got to have a great team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've talked about, they feel it, as a second generation, they feel a little different responsibility because they did, as children, grew up with us creating and, you know, generating and having this ownership. And, you know, we talked about stewardship a lot, and then they take that role very seriously, you know, and they feel a different pressure. And we've talked with them about balancing that because it, you know, goes to the old parables too, you know, about, yes, you want to be good stewards and you want to protect, but you got to continue to grow.
Yeah.
You got to continue to seek
Yeah.
out those things.
Which is a risk.
Right. And that's part of it. And
Yeah.
and you're going to make some mistakes.
Yeah.
And then we got to back off and let them make some mistakes.
Yeah. Which is hard.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, especially when you blend parents with.
It's gonna be a mistake.
Yeah, it's super hard to. So yeah. And
Yeah, especially when the mistake actually starts costing financial dollars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
But it's
Yeah.
just part of it.
So now we talked about that gifting you have where you can really maximize, build down in and drill it, and then you want to multiply like that.
Yep.
You know, how that ability to see where to go next, not the drill down.
Yeah.
I see the drill down all in your family, but the ability to see where to go next, you know, how are you going to multiply that?
It's, you know, I'm working on that right now, believe it or not. You know, one of the things that, and even to Sherry, she'll say, why are you doing that? And
Yeah.
there's certain things that just are instinctively, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't describe it.
I
You
know.
know, it's just an instinct that I have, whether I don't know if it's God or it's just me being selfish or I don't know what it is, but instinctively I know things. And what I mean by know things, I can see the outcome like you were saying earlier. You can see the outcome. 20 years from now, you want it to happen tomorrow, but you can
Yeah.
see the outcome.
Yeah.
And so those are other things that you can't train, but one of the things that I do know is that I can teach the team to cast a wide net. When you're growing anything, right? I don't want to just have one or two opportunities to choose from.
Yeah.
When you're growing a company, you want to have 50 opportunities to choose from.
Yeah.
Well, the only way you're going to have 50 opportunities is you got to go look for 50 opportunities.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at whether it's site selection or businesses to purchase or investments or whatever we're going to do, it's, you know, it's all in opportunities. You got to have enough opportunities so you can make a good decision, if that makes sense. And so that's what I'm trying to teach the team is saying, look, don't, you know, if you just sit here and wait for opportunities to come to you, you're going to make a lot more, you're going to make a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if
for
you
sure.
go out there and look for opportunities where you get to choose and
Yeah.
vet them out and do your due diligence on them,
Yeah.
then that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
For sure.
so
That is a hard thing for us to understand sometimes. Like Mike's looking at so many things, and we're so focused on the next thing, the thing that we've already started, and you know, we feel like we're so invested, and we're like, why is he out there looking at all these other things and getting so distracted? You know, but it's true. You don't always know where that next thing's going to come from unless you're just always out there looking for those opportunities.
Yep. For sure.
So that's, to answer that question, that's what I'm trying to, because I can't teach them the instinct. They don't
Yeah.
have the 30 years of
Yeah.
building the repetition or to read a situation. But I do know that if I can educate them on trying to get as many opportunities in front of them that they can choose from,
Yeah.
then that's going to help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I'm very similar to you in that I'm an intuitive leader.
Yeah.
You know, I'm following 7 steps. I'm going to follow 7 steps, but I don't know that I'm following 7 steps. Right?
Right.
I'm just doing what's necessary.
You're
I'm
doing
doing what's next.
Yes.
Right? But Christy in particular is not that leader. She's very much, okay, I want to understand what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to understand why you did that.
Right.
And then I want to create steps out of that, which I appreciate a lot because there is a reason we do the things we do.
Right.
It's not just all fluff and misunderstanding. You know, there's just certain things that we have built.
Yeah.
We don't think about it anymore. I'm just running.
I was talking to a buddy of mine, very successful in the financial world, buddy of mine. And we were talking one day, and he said, Mike, there's 3 types of CEOs. There's the startup guy, that kind of comes up with a concept and starts it. But he can only grow it so far.
Yeah, it's true.
And then there's the marketing CEO. So a guy that takes the concept and goes out there and markets it and builds it to a certain amount. But he can only grow it so far. And then you got the private equity firms that come in and put $1 billion behind it, and next thing you know, you're Amazon.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the evolution of the way things are being built. And so, we are probably stuck in that startup marketing guy. That's who we are, right?
For sure.
Right.
And
100%.
so, like with Christy, and even with Hayden, because Hayden's got a lot of those same tendencies. It's like, well, let's put this policy of procedure. I said, okay, in 20 years when you start making money, tell me about it. But right now, no. But I think Christy and Hayden, and that is needed because I think it's just that evolution of the next step. And
absolutely.
I don't have the patience for it. I'll just be,
absolutely,
and I'm trying.
Absolutely.
Right? It was so funny, because, I think I read the other day that the generations underneath us, they spend more of their time digitally, their free time digitally.
Yeah.
Which basically I understood is that the majority of their free time they're spending on a phone or some type of electronic product.
Right.
Technology.
Yeah.
And so we were going through just yesterday, we were going through this. Microsoft has Teams, right? And it's how people are communicating.
Yeah.
And there's all these lists, and it emails you this. And I was telling Sherry the other day, it's like, ding, ding. I mean, I start getting stuff. I was like, and it's automatically putting it through the list. And I just like a sheet of paper, and I write my to-dos down.
Yes.
I wake up, and I'm like, it's just the way it works.
Yeah.
And
you love a list.
but then they always ask me, Dad, or Mike, how do you get all your stuff done?
Because I'm not organizing it 10 different ways in all these platforms.
Exactly.
Y'all spend half your week talking about what you're going to do and document it,
Yeah.
So anyway, but it's just, I think it's that next evolution. I think it's good. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing too. I see you making really difficult but bold choices right now, both of you. It's just so much easier not to do this than to do it.
Yeah.
But for the future growth of your business, that's what you have to do. Right? That's where the future is. So, I really applaud you for the tough things that you're going through.
I can tell you, I can take about 2% of that credit. I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah, but you're still making the choice.
But Sherry has really stepped that game up and really understand. We really here again, the vision is for the family to continue to do and support, our philanthropy as well as just with our own companies. I think that we got 300, almost 400 employees now. So there's
wow now
there's a responsibility just within that itself, of helping people. And
That's right.
so, but, that's what we want to do. We want to continue to help in any way we can. The byproduct is we get to live a great life. I'm not sitting here saying that,
Yeah.
our gifting
Yeah.
is not what your team does.
But we get to work with
But
people
we get
like
to work
Dwayne's
with-
team and see them do
absolutely.
what they
I mean,
do,
y'all,
which is amazing.
I can't say enough about you and your team.
Yeah,
Tell
thank you.
It's just, y'all
Yeah.
rock stars in our worlds.
Mhm.
We got the easy part.
Yeah.
Y'all are the hard part. I'm not
Falling.
I'm not that. I don't have to go. I've been to India. I've been to Costa Rica. I mean, I've seen it. I've touched it. I've seen it. I know the situation. And I'm telling you, for y'all to deal with that on a daily basis, it's just truly angels. I mean, it's just what y'all are.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
how we see it. And it's our responsibility to help as much as we can.
Well,
So-
thank you. Appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
So, you guys have made all the financial decisions
Mhm.
for your family,
Mhm.
for philanthropy,
Mhm.
for everything.
Yeah.
What is that like, bringing your children into, because it has to slow the process down just like everything
Yep.
else does.
Yep.
Right.
And because it's you, on your philanthropy side, it's heart passion.
Mhm.
It's not just writing a check.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and I see you building that heart passion into your children,
Mhm.
and your children have that now.
Yep.
But what kind of steps have you had to take in that?
Yeah.
Because it is a big part of who you are and
Yep.
what you do as a business.
Mhm.
I think we were probably blessed with having Cole. You may want to talk a little bit about Cole, but we have monthly meetings, and philanthropy is probably a pretty decent core of what we talk about and the why behind what we do. And it's been it's I don't know why that's been the easy part. I mean, I think the kids have always
Mhm.
understood that that's who we are foundationally.
I thought it was interesting. So Cole comes from a science background, and what I thought was interesting with Cole, because he had not worked in our businesses, and he went to school in conservation biology. But when he was a part of these family meetings and understanding the vision that Mike was casting for the legacy and what we wanted to do, he brought a very simple concept of what he had learned about carrying capacities and just some scientific models, and applied them to this format we were trying to build.
Yep.
And it made so much sense because he pointed out that the emphasis has to be on the use of these funds and not just the accumulation of them. And it's about raising the carrying capacity and keeping everything in balance. And so when you say that, I think it was good that God
Yeah.
gifted us with Cole. He brought a different perspective to it. Not only you're giving out of your heart and you're giving, but that giving has a purpose for this overall concept that you're trying to do that's vital. He put it in the terms of a herd. If the predators get taken out, how that can be bad, and if the population gets too big. And he presented that in a way, you got to look at your resources, your time, your money, your resources that same way. So it really put a calling on the legacy to put a focus there, and he stepped in now to help build out what does that focus look like beyond just what we have
Yeah.
a heart for
Yeah.
and who we build relationships with.
Yeah.
Now it is integral to the legacy that piece has to exist, or you get an unhealthy resource.
Yeah.
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 And so that's been really interesting.
And how old is Cole?
Cole
It's pretty-
is 24 years old.
We
So
were the
we're-
very first meeting when he came in and he started talking about sustainable models and stuff. I mean, we were like,
he
"Who
had
is
charts
this?
and
Who is this kid?" But it was so scientific, but very understandable. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You always should show him.
I
You need to
always
see the
enjoy
presentation.
having conversations with
Yeah,
Cole.
yeah.
he's very
Always.
interesting. And
He is.
And again, I think it all has spun out of Mike, you've always had a really clear vision for what you want to see. And so, like we were talking, watching each one of them step in. Brooke our daughter jokes about she's the split of us. She has Mike's sense of urgency and kind of high drive, and she has my perfectionism, and she's like, I'm in conflict with myself all the time. She's like both of us in one person.
That's got to be tough for her to live with. Wow.
It's so hard, right? It's so hard. But what I have loved watching about them is that they all have seemed to, and we started this early on, probably when Hayden was in college and they were in high school, we started the concept of family meetings. And, everybody does it differently about how much information do you share with your children. And I think different situations call for different things. In our family, it felt like the vision that we were casting required them to understand what the resources were. And so we've been pretty open with them about that. And it's been impressive to watch them appreciate who each of their gifts are. Just because Cole's the youngest doesn't mean he can't come to a meeting and present something like that. And everybody's like, wow, that's special that God gave you that gifting, or that Brooke can bring her administration and her drive to get something done, or Hayden bring his passion for retail. So that's been good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Noah, he helped fashion these questions that we're discussing about.
Yeah.
And, he wanted me to ask a question about transparency with your kids.
Yes.
And, our industry, we have to fill out a 990, and,
Right.
I don't own SOS.
Right.
It's publicly held charity, and, so everything is financial transparency. If anybody wants to know something, ask.
Right.
We get an audit, the whole thing.
Yes.
And I didn't put this down, but since you brought it up and you're doing that, how do you see that transparency with them? How does that empower them?
I think it's sometimes I can see it being a burden
For them?
on them. And it's interesting. You would say, wait a second, how's that possible if they know they're going to inherit a net worth one day, regardless of how big or small it is? But I think that they feel like that there's a lot of responsibility there.
Yeah.
And so we, growing up, didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Right? And so you got to be careful when you're in situations like we're first gens, you're looking at a second or third generation, there's burdens that they have that you're not used to. Just like you've got burdens that they are not used to. But at the end of the day, it's the same.
Yeah.
They're still burdens.
Yeah.
And so my advice would be to never discount that in your second and third generations.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that the burden is that there is a responsibility to maintain and to grow it. And I think it's a good burden.
Yeah.
I think it's God's calling for all of us.
Yeah.
There's not, people say, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? Well, God gave us the purpose.
Yeah.
Just read the Bible. He'll tell you what the purpose is. The purpose is to help the unfortunate and people that are in need. And, we try to teach them to wake up every day and, better the people around you. And so whether that's through financials, whether that's through your time, whether it's through your education or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
And so we're pretty transparent. We sit down, when we go over our family meetings, we have all of the financials out there. They're looking at what our real estate returns are, what our equity returns are, what our philanthropy returns are.
Yeah.
We have different philanthropy that we put money. We have donor advised funds that we've got returns coming in and out of. So, we're pretty much an open book.
Yeah.
Our daughter even manages some of our personal finances. Because we're paying her. She needs to do something.
I think such an advantage for them in that because you've built that, you've carried that. They're going to get it,
Right.
whether they're prepared or not.
Right.
And for them to begin to understand that burden and learn while you're as young as you are,
Right.
you two are the asset that you never had. Right? That's the same in my thing.
It
Like
is.
if it's going to grow and be successful,
Right.
you know, I'm only 63, but I've
Yes.
transitioned leadership here.
Yeah.
Why? Because they now have an asset that I never had.
That's right.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And so that actually, in the long run, because they're going to get that and see it and learn it, and because they have you guys, are going to make them successful in what they're doing.
And it's the same thing with, and Sherry's done a great job as well. You know, we've got, you know, an army full of attorneys and tax people, tax accountants, and M&A people, you know. So, but it's, you know, finance guys. So Sherry does a really good job of bringing Hayden, Brooke, and even Cole into those meetings.
Yeah,
So
I
now
take them.
they are. I wish I was that. I wish I was a 28-year-old kid that was able to talk to an M&A attorney
Yeah.
at that age,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so
Yeah.
the knowledge that they're getting at a young, even as young as they are, I think is. And here again, it's that progression. It's kind of what
Yeah.
you were talking about, Christy, and building those processes.
Right.
You know, it's that progression of taking the business to the next level,
Yeah.
and that's the goal.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to sit here and talk to you the rest of the week, but I don't think people are going to listen for a week.
No.
So I'm going to ask you one last question here, and you know, if you're speaking to people, you know, that are young, and you're speaking to people that have children and grandchildren and businesses and work in the nonprofit sector, you know, if you look at your family legacy. What, is there anything else you'd like to say about that?
You know, from the perspective of the family legacy is that, you know, the goal is to honor God's commitment to the world. And we just want to be a small part of it. And we don't want it to stop. You know, one time I was talking to my youngest, we were going over donor advised. He goes, man, we just need to take all the money and give it, you know, help these people. And I said, well, yeah, that's a good product. That's a good concept. I said, but what if we could give that dollar amount away every month for eternity?
Yeah.
How many more people are you going to help?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we're trying to do. I mean, we're trying to build an endowment to where we have goals that we've set. To help the unfortunate.
Yeah.
And like you said, about empowering each generation of non-family members, family members, but just empowering those resources that God's put, you know, blessed you to steward, and to just be able to hand that down to the next generation and continue to see it multiply and to see God be honored.
Yep.
Well, for a whole bunch of people that'll never meet you, I've gotten to be firsthand to watch what your legacy is doing amongst those who are less fortunate. And, you know, it's tremendous. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Legacy Shift as much as I have. And so we would like to thank Mike and Sherry for coming and sharing their heart and being open and transparent about something that's your life, and sometimes it's a difficult process. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.